Park is known for its large selection of thrill rides, including iconic roller coasters like Hyperia and Colossus, which was the original coaster that caused the turning point of target audience. They also have a great selection of flat rides, even if some were a bit strange. Slammer, I'm looking at you. They have a strong lineup for thrill seekers, but something they're missing is a great dark ride. Some might say that the 4D Cinema or Walking Dead the ride count, but I would say the Walking Dead is just an indoor roller coaster, while Sunset Cinema is it's definitely there. For a park that has one of the best theme park Halloween events in the UK, for some reason, it's not translating into their own imagined dark ride, Ghost Train. This ride was originally opened in July 2016 and designed by the Merlin Magic Making team. They collaborated with many different people to get this attraction going, including SimWorks, who did the onboard VR, and for the ride system, they used Intamin and Severn Lamb. The first iteration was called Darren Brown's Ghost Train. Why Darren Brown?
My Ghost Train. Darren Brown's Ghost Train, only at Thorpe Park Resort.
Darren Brown is a British illusionist and self-described psychologist illusionist. That's a lot of words. So basically, he's a walking marmalizer. This was already an interesting choice, but it was hyped up to be a ghost train like no other. We all know what ghost trains are like. Some are nostalgic, some are bad, but there are a chosen few that are actually scary. Unfortunately, even though the hype was there, the original attraction failed to meet its mark, and a lot of people were just disappointed and kind of confused. The experience starts from the queue line. There are a lot of great Easter eggs to previous attractions, and a pretty loud announcement that goes off every so often to try and simulate a real train station. You then join a pre-show where a Pepper's Ghost effect of the main man himself, Darren Brown, was shown. He would then tell you the story of fear, and how some passengers took the last train to an abandoned crypt and never came back. I mean, how stupid can you be? It's natural selection at that point. You're then guided into this huge room, where this amazing looking Victorian carriage is held up by chains. I must admit this looks amazing. The set pieces aren't universal standard by any means, but I do love the smells, lighting, costumes, and atmosphere. For some reason, the inside of the carriage just looks like a normal London Underground tube one, as if I'd ever want to see more of those.
If you see something that doesn't look right, speak to staff or text British Transport Police on 61016.
This is usually where the issues started to happen. Virtual reality is a great concept, but in actuality, when they're made to function for a full theme park day, a lot of issues can happen. Most of the time, many were broken or they were not synced together, which obviously made the ride a bit rough around the edges. There was a lack of direction, especially during the parts where guests were made to get out of the train and walk around, to then 5 minutes later be shoved back into the train. This obviously isn't a problem with the actors themselves, as most people do give great feedback about their performances. The original iteration of Ghost Train cost $13 million. Just before you start saying, oh well, that's not very much, lots of theme parks spend more on attractions. For one, this is Merlin, not Disneyland. They won't spend that money if they don't have to, or if there's no world's first attached to it. And secondly, it bombed, so GG easy skill issue, I guess. For the same amount of money, they built Saw the Ride. While Gerstlauers can sometimes be unreliable too, it's certainly more value for money. At least on Saw, I get to remind myself how much I hate Gerstlauers. Any feeling is a good one, am I right? The problem with it costing so much is the fact that it wasn't a success. It only took them a year for them to change it to Darren Brown's Ghost Train Rise of the Demon. That's a really long name, please. They did change a few of the scenes, including the addition of having people actually sat next to you, which made it more lifelike. They also changed the quality of the video, making it seem more lifelike and accurate to the inside of the train, which did add to authenticity. But because it's still VR half the time, it didn't work. They also advertised that the Ghost Train would be able to have several different endings, however they only really ever used 2. So you would think after 2 iterations of the Ghost Train they would just get rid of it, right? Yep, you're right. Thanks for watching, bye! Ghost Train is the reimagining of the previous iteration, and it's definitely the strongest version. Even though the ride system is still the same, they completely revamped the story, costumes, set, and train design to fit more with the British rail style trains. So did the ride experience improve? I guess so? If you've never done the up-to-date version, the new story is about a station master who tells the story about, you guessed it, a bunch of morons who went to the last station. But this time, it's a bit different. And a bit complicated at times, so you might want to sit down for this one. Thorpe Park's website says, depart the mortal world on a one-way ticket beyond the veil into darkness on Thorpe Park's new Ghost Train. But watch your tracks. Death is always one stop ahead. Do you get the joke? This story will take you to Chapel Station, the last stop, Would you rather leave or take the last train? That's usually what the staff say, and then everybody's just standing there awkwardly, and there's always one guy that's like, yeah, let's take the last train. As you enter the large room this time, instead of seeing an old-fashioned train hung by chains, you just see a regular train that resembles the London ones that we have. The only downside of this change was the fact that we lost the hanging chains effect, which is a shame, but it makes more sense now, and it's very story heavy, which is a good and bad thing. It's great for people that enjoy a good story, but for some guests I can see it as being a bit much, or even confusing at times. There seems to be too much going on, and the story tries to overachieve, which can lead to confusion. And honestly, I'm still confused as to why there were nuns, like what? I thought it was about ghosts. The train scene is followed by a crypt with some nice effects, smells, and more story. Then you're rushed back to the train by these Grim Reaper type things. Once you're in the train for the final time, this in my opinion is the best part. The train starts moving a lot, the actors are now running up and down the train, acting possessed, and then the lights turn off. Somehow there are now nuns from the very not obvious doors on either end of the train, and they're now scaring people left, right, and centre, until the lights flicker again, and they've somehow disappeared, leaving you either distressed or quite confused. Honestly, I'm struggling to understand why there are faceless nuns. If you were to show me a picture of the Jungle Bus, I would probably scream more. The issue with Ghost Train being an actor and special effects led attraction comes down to the variety of different things that can go wrong. This isn't usually the fault of the actors, because as I've said, they're just doing what they're told. But during my experience, it felt like they didn't know what we were running from. Was it a ghost? Was it a demon? Or was it more sinister, like Drake? Ghost Train opens from 12 every day and has an estimated capacity of 750 riders per hour, which is quite low for a major attraction. The entire experience of Ghost Train is also really long. The experience is 25 minutes, but of course that time can vary because it's catered each time by the actors running it. In the same amount of time, I could have ridden Nemesis Inferno 17 times, and I could even be a quarter of the way through Hyperia's queue line. Not being funny, but Ghost Train is also subjected to my worst fear, judgmental teens. There are so many times where I've just heard people be so rude towards the actors for no reason, which is a shame. Because of its reliance on the actors, people talking over them and being rude or pushing actors can really spoil things for others. Theme parks do tend to attract the worst kinds of people. One time I had this lady stood next to me at Legoland on Hydra's Challenge, and bro would not leave me alone. Every time I went down a step, she would also be doing the same thing. Like, babe, there is enough space for you to not be breathing down my neck. Obviously, people experience fear in different ways, and if you laugh, that's absolutely fine. But if you're just being rude, then just don't do the attraction, or I don't know. Ghost Train kind of feels like water rides all over again. There's always one person who wants to stand up or try and be different, and it also sets up high expectations with the signs outside saying you have to be over 13 and the criminally high 1.4 meter height restriction. There's also like 7 warning symbols. I know it's good to always have them, but as someone who does struggle with those things, it's honestly not that bad. But I did wear earplugs, so maybe I'm the issue. Is it a family attraction? No, not at all. It's quite dark and edgy, but I also wouldn't say that it pushes itself to be scary enough. They should utilize their amazing soundtracks and effects to emphasize the scares. I think the reason it struggles so much is the difference between a scare maze and a ghost train is that during a maze you walk at your own pace. There's lots of places people could be standing, so you're always on edge. With Ghost Train, you can see all the actors miles before you interact with them, and because you're sat down, you almost feel safer. Some people also feel that the ride is quite repetitive and too long. While I would agree that it's repetitive, I wouldn't say it's long, as the whole time I was in there, I didn't once think about the time. I think that it could genuinely be something great and unique if they were to change the storyline slightly. This makes it so everyone can enjoy it. A lot of nerds like myself enjoy the Nemesis storyline, but you can still enjoy the attraction from face value because you can work out that it's a big monster, it's a little bit angry, and now it wants to eat you and the rest of the valley. You don't have to do any more digging to figure that out. Of course, for real fans, there should be more substance to research so that the people who care can find out more. I think dumbing it down would be a good choice. Also, change the nuns to demons or ghosts, because what? I think Ghost Train's walk to the crypt could also do with some smaller corridors or places for actors to hide and provide scares. They should maybe utilize the time where people do have control over where they're going, like The Walking Dead, or maybe even chased into the train properly. For me, Ghost Train is a one and done type of attraction. I usually avoid activities like this anyway because of my sensory issues, but I'm glad to say that you can ask the staff to make adjustments for your ride experience, not only for Ghost Train, but also their scare attractions, which is really great, and I love that they can adapt their attractions for more people. so if you're ever unsure, it's always worth an ask. But do I think it deserves all the hate? Yes and no. I say this because I do think it's a real shame more people don't enjoy it. It has the potential to be a really great dark attraction, but it feels like they got stuck with the direction. I'm very happy they got rid of the IP attachment, and I wouldn't say it's my favourite ride, but does it feel the need for a silly little ghost story attraction? Yeah, I think. Girl, I'm a crocodile, I'm not friends with ghosts. So did Merlin learn their lesson on overselling an attraction? No, and they probably never will, but these changes made were a step in the right direction. I do think the actors are the highlight of the scare attraction, but when are they not? Thorpe Park staff always seem to girl boss their way through the day, so shout out to you if you've ever worked there. Do you like Ghost Train? Or maybe I taught you something you didn't know beforehand. Perhaps you just enjoyed my dumb jokes. Either way, consider watching some of my other videos, or even subscribing, as there'll be more on the way soon. I hope you guys are all well. Take care, nerds. Have you heard that if you go to Chapel Station, you get a free Greggs? Who would be dumb enough to listen to some graffiti? Yeah, I know. Some people are so stupid. Anyway, see you next time, pal. Yeah, take care. Crocodile has been held hostage outside of Chapel Station while holding a bean and cheese melt. Officers are not sure how they got one, but police are pointing towards graffiti seen promising a Greggs to anyone attending the witch's ceremony. Motherfuck.
My Ghost Train.